topic this afternoon is around this idea of the why, but with a specific focus on leadership. So I'm a Mandela Washington Fellow. I am an old fellow with Nolly. I'm a 2015 fellow, so it was already a long time ago that I went. When I went to Chicago, the professor we had was absolutely amazing. It was a totally life-changing experience. But we spent quite a lot of time focusing on this idea of leadership. And we spoke a lot around leadership on the continent. We spoke about leadership that is servant leadership. We spoke about leading from behind. We spoke about all these amazing people that were with us that came from other countries and the kind of leadership challenges that they faced in their countries. At the time, I was running an NGO, a visual arts NGO, and I was also really concerned about how I was showing up. I had gotten the position quite young. I was 28 when I took over the directorship, and it had only occurred to me later that how I behaved, how I showed up, what I did, was what people took away from us as an organization, and how my staff learned to do their things during the day. And it suddenly, after coming back from Chicago, occurred to me that if I'm not really checking myself in what I do and how I do it, it's very hard for me to expect other people to be doing that. So I became a little bit obsessed with the topic, and after quite a long time, I stumbled upon this guy. If you haven't heard of him, he's amazing, but I'm sure lots of people have. His name is Sinek. He's an author, he's a speaker, he's an ethnographer, which if you don't know, I also had to Google it. It means he studies people's customs and relationships to each other. But Simon said something really phenomenal in one of his talks that struck me. He said there are two kinds of leaders. There are people who occupy positions of power, and there are people who inspire change. What really struck me about that sentence is that the second kind of leader, there is no mention of the word power. He says they inspire change. God, that's really interesting. That means that you don't have to be in any kind of position of power at all to inspire change, right? Which is quite a radical concept for us here. We believe that you have to be on the top of the pile to be able to do anything. And I think the Mandela Washington program and us here and the Revolt talks, what we're learning is that that's not the truth, that all of us can impact change. If you just look at these people, these are all girls under the age of 18. They all took up the challenge of leadership. Greta has literally inspired teenagers all over the world to take up the cause of climate change. Emma started an anti-gun violence campaign when her high school was stormed and 17 people were murdered. Malala, at the age of 11, anonymously published her diary about what it was like to live under Taliban rule. 3 years later, when she was 14, she survived an assassination attempt. She was shot in the head. None of these girls started from a place of power, and none of them picked this for themselves. They didn't wake up one day and be like, oh, that's what I'm going to do with my life. Something presented itself, and they stood forward. They said, I'm going to take up this challenge and become a leader in this way. So, technically speaking, there's one thing and one thing only you need if you want to be a leader. Followers. So leadership technically has nothing to do with rank or title. It is totally voluntary. But most people have followers because their values, their beliefs, their concerns, their causes align with your cause. That's why they follow you. And believe it or not, they don't follow you. They follow the cause. You just happen to be the person who can articulate the cause well on their behalf, and somebody who can give some vision and purpose to it. Now, Simon, again, has this amazing little diagram called the Golden Circle. He says 99.9% of us know what we do. I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm a this, I'm a that, right? Some of us know how we do that. So what I do, I earn money for my family. How do I do that? I have 5 jobs and a side hustle on a Tuesday for fun. Very few of us know why we do what we do. Now, most people communicate from the outside in. They try and tell you what they do. They try and tell you how they do it. They don't know why they do it, and they can't communicate that. Now, interestingly enough, we spoke about biology earlier. Simon says that this makes complete sense if you look at the human brain. The what portion of his golden circle talks to our neocortex, which is the newest part of our brain, it's the biggest part of our brain, and it is very critically the part of our brain that controls language. He says the how and the why reflects more what the limbic part of the brain does. The limbic part of the brain very critically controls emotions and decision-making, but has no ability to process language. This is really important because I know that all of us have had this moment and this feeling where we've gone, you know, I want to do that, but something doesn't really feel right. Huh? This is your brain literally telling you there's something wrong, but it cannot put it into words. It's like a feeling, it's just sitting here, right? So, because our limbic brain controls these things, it regulates emotions such as loyalty and trust. So when great leaders do the other way around, they communicate from the why outwards, they're literally tapping into our finely tuned emotional behavior. And that is why it is so easy for those people to inspire action. We literally feel them. We get them. They're part of our tribe. They're easy to follow. It's not complicated. We don't sit there going, should I, shouldn't I? We just hop on the bus and we're done. They also are truly authentic. And I want to say this because as a point of people from the continent, we have a problem with authentic leadership. Time. Hold on 2 seconds. There is one other thing I want to say about leadership. We call them leaders because they go first. We call them leaders because they take a risk. We call them leaders because they sacrifice for their people. And when they do, the people will happily sacrifice for their leader because they will help the leader's vision and purpose and mission grow. They will give their blood, sweat, and tears. And when you ask people, why would you give your blood, sweat, and tears to that person? The answer will always be, because they would do the same for me. So I put the call out to you that Vakile said earlier. Is that not the kind of world that we all want to live in?